When I saw them standing there, Ethan and Sophia, with that smug look, demanding my money and my house, something inside me shattered, but I didn't let it show. That moment, that exact second, is forever etched in my mind. I was standing in the living room of my own home, the scent of rain still clinging to the windows, watching them with quiet fury simmering beneath my skin. The house, the one I had built with my own hands, sweat, and late nights, was being claimed by the very people I trusted the most. My husband, Ethan, and my best friend, Sophia. Betrayal isn't a loud scream. Sometimes, it's the silence in the room before the storm hits. Before the storm, there was a calm, a routine, a life I thought I understood. I'm Claire. I'm an illustrator. And not just any illustrator. I'm the founder of a small but thriving publishing company that has grown from a humble sketchbook to a flourishing empire. My days were once filled with the soft scratch of pencils on paper, the quiet hum of my studio, and the laughter of my family echoing through our home. Ethan was the man I married when I was barely out of college. We met at an art show. He was charming, quick-witted, and convinced me that love stories weren't just for paintings, but for real life too. Our marriage was a tapestry of shared dreams, occasional fights, and whispered promises. Sophia was my closest friend since childhood. She was the sister I chose, the one I confided in when deadlines pressed too hard and nights grew too long. Her husband, Nathan, was the steady calm to her fiery spirit. We often joked about how our little group was perfect, the kind of family you write about, not the kind you fight over. Our home was a modest Victorian house nestled in the suburbs. The wooden floors creaked just right. The scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the kitchen each morning, and Ethan's old records played softly on weekend afternoons. We hosted dinners filled with laughter and, sometimes, tears. But it was our world, or so I thought. The first crack appeared not with a bang, but a whisper. It started subtly, Ethan coming home late, more distracted than usual. Sophia's visits became less frequent, her laughter a little forced when she was around. I caught myself noticing the small things. A text message popped up on Ethan's phone when he thought I wasn't looking. A hurried glance from Sophia when our eyes met across a crowded room. I told myself to breathe, to trust. But that nagging feeling settled in my chest like a stone, growing heavier with each passing day. One afternoon, I found a photo on Sophia's social media, a picture of her with Isla, her daughter, smiling in the soft glow of sunset. I stared longer than I should have. The way Isla's eyes caught the light, something in them didn't quite match the eyes of the man I called husband. Was I imagining it? Was my mind playing tricks on me? I remember the day I discovered the truth as though the air itself had thickened. I was working late in my studio when Ethan's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, a message from Sophia. I was drawn to it, as if some invisible force urged me to read. Nathan doesn't know. Isla is Ethan's. We have to be careful. The words hit me like a blow I never saw coming. I sank into the nearest chair, my heart pounding so loudly I thought it might burst. Ethan, my husband, was Isla's father, and Sophia, my best friend, had been hiding it from me all this time. I felt hollow, as if the ground had shifted beneath me. I confronted Ethan that night. His eyes flickered between shame and arrogance. Sophia denied everything when I called her, but the weight of the secret crushed the air around me. The betrayal wasn't just in their lies. It was in how they thought I wouldn't find out. How they thought they could steal from me, my family, my trust, even my home. But I was done being silent. I reached out to Nathan, Sophia's husband, with a cautious proposal. He was stunned, but the truth weighed on him too. Together, we began gathering evidence, financial records, text messages, anything that could expose their deception. Meanwhile, I doubled down on my work. The quiet hours I spent drawing and managing my publishing empire became my fortress. I was growing stronger in ways they never expected. When Ethan and Sophia finally stormed into my house, their faces masks of entitlement, demanding money and a claim to my home, I was ready. I revealed the truth. The house was solely mine, purchased long before their betrayals, and my publishing company's success had given me wealth far beyond their reach. The confrontation shattered their arrogance. Isla, their daughter, surprised us all when she took my hand and called me Mom, not out of obligation, but from a bond that had quietly formed in the shadows of their lies. Nathan revealed that he and Sophia were still legally married, another layer of deception. That day, justice was not a loud victory, but a quiet reckoning. The days before the confrontation were a quiet war zone. I kept my composure on the outside, but inside, I was a storm of emotions, anger, hurt, disbelief swirling beneath a calm surface. The house, once a sanctuary, felt like a stage where the next act was about to unfold. The truth about Ethan being Isla's biological father had torn apart the fabric of my life. But what hurt most was the betrayal from Sophia, my closest friend, the one who held the secrets in her smile and silent glances. I remember the weight of the phone in my hand when I called Nathan. I hesitated for a moment, fingers trembling, before I pressed dial. When he answered, his voice was cautious but hopeful, as if he, too, had been carrying a burden too heavy to bear alone. "I think it's time we bring everything into the light," I said softly. Nathan agreed, and from that day forward, we became allies bound by a common cause: to uncover the full truth, protect Isla, and hold Ethan and Sophia accountable. Working with Nathan wasn't easy. There was an undercurrent of pain in his eyes when he spoke of his marriage, the betrayal he hadn't fully grasped until now. Yet, amidst the shared hurt, a quiet trust grew between us. We started with what we had: bank statements, emails, secret messages. I spent long nights poring over documents, my eyes stinging from the screen's glow, heart pounding with each new piece of evidence. The financial trail was tangled, but it led to one undeniable fact. Ethan and Sophia had been siphoning money from accounts tied to my publishing company, money I had poured into growing something real, something honest. The betrayal was deeper than I'd imagined. Despite the anger and pain, I refused to let it consume me. Each morning, I returned to my studio, the familiar scent of ink and paper grounding me. Drawing became my refuge, every stroke of the pen a quiet rebellion against the chaos surrounding me. I poured my energy into expanding the business, signing new authors, and launching a series of graphic novels inspired by stories of resilience, stories I now knew intimately. Sophia and Ethan thought they could break me. Instead, they forged a new steel inside me, a quiet strength that no amount of deceit could shatter. Then came the day they showed up at my door demanding, entitled, their faces flush with arrogance. Ethan's voice was cold as he spoke. "Claire, you owe us. The house. The money, it's rightfully ours." Sophia stood beside him, her smile a cruel mask. "You can't keep taking everything for yourself." I didn't flinch. I met their eyes steadily, the years of silence and patience culminating in this moment. "You're wrong," I said calmly. "The house has always been mine. I bought it before either of you came into the picture. And as for money, my company's accounts are transparent. The wealth I've built is from my own hard work." Their faces shifted, disbelief mixed with desperation. Isla was there too, standing quietly, her small hand slipping into mine. For a moment, time seemed to pause. Sophia's eyes darted nervously, avoiding Isla's gaze. Then, softly but clearly, Isla said, "Claire is my mom." The words echoed through the room like a bell tolling the end of an era. Nathan stepped forward, his voice steady but firm. "Sophia and I are still legally married. None of this changes that." The room was heavy with revelations, truths that could no longer be hidden. Ethan's jaw tightened. The man who once held the power now looked small, stripped of the lies that had propped him up. Sophia's facade crumbled. The woman who once seemed untouchable now looked lost, the cost of her choices laid bare. After they left, silence enveloped the house. I sat down, the exhaustion settling in my bones. But beneath the fatigue was a quiet triumph. Justice hadn't come with a shout or vengeance. It came with the strength of truth and the unshakable foundation I had built on my own. Isla curled up next to me, her small hand in mine a reminder of what truly mattered: love, trust, and family. Nathan stayed close, not as a savior, but as a partner, someone who had seen the worst and still chose to stand by me. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Sophia lost custody of Isla and slipped into a life shadowed by regret and poverty. Ethan was disowned by his family, forced to face the reality of his actions, working manual labor far from the life he once claimed. But I healed physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Each day, I grew stronger, not because of what I had taken back, but because of what I refused to lose: my dignity, my peace, and my capacity to love. The morning after the confrontation, the house felt different. Not empty, but lighter, like the thick fog of deceit had finally lifted, allowing sunlight to seep through the cracks. I woke to the gentle hum of the city outside, the familiar scent of coffee brewing, and Isla's soft footsteps padding into the kitchen. She climbed onto a chair beside me, her small face serious for a child, but her eyes held a wisdom beyond her years. "Mom," she said quietly, "thank you for fighting for me." The tremor in her voice made my chest ache. Here was a little girl caught in the middle of adult betrayals, trying to make sense of a world that had been turned upside down. And yet, despite everything, she chose me. That day, as I watched Isla splash milk into her cereal, I realized that family isn't just about blood. It's about who stands by you when everything falls apart. Rebuilding wasn't just about fixing what had been broken. It was about creating something new, a future forged from lessons learned in pain and resilience. With Nathan's support, I began reshaping my life. He was careful, never rushing, letting me set the pace. Our bond grew slowly, rooted in shared experiences rather than fleeting emotions. Nathan wasn't perfect, far from it, but he was steady, honest and kind. And more importantly, he respected the space I needed to heal. Together, we navigated the complexities of family legal battles over custody, whispered gossip in our community, and the occasional pang of loneliness that comes from rebuilding trust. Work became my sanctuary. My publishing company, once a modest dream, transformed into a thriving enterprise. I hired talented artists and writers who shared my vision for storytelling stories about strength, survival, and the quiet power of perseverance. Each success felt like a small victory, a reminder that I was more than the sum of their betrayals. One evening, as I sat in my studio, surrounded by sketches and manuscripts, the soft glow of my desk lamp illuminating the room, I felt a profound sense of peace. The scars of the past hadn't disappeared, but they no longer defined me. There were moments of doubt, of course. Nights when the silence felt too loud, when memories crept in like shadows. But I learned to face them not with anger or bitterness, but with compassion for myself. I forgave, not because they deserved it, but because I needed to let go of the poison that threatened to consume me. Sophia's downfall was a cautionary tale, a reminder that choices have consequences, and that trust, once broken, is hard to mend. Ethan's exile from our lives was a painful but necessary closure. He had chosen a path that led away from us. And I learned that sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is walk away. Isla blossomed in the love and stability we created. Watching her grow, hearing her laugh, and seeing her curiosity about the world filled the empty spaces that betrayal had carved out. Her innocence and resilience inspired me every day. One afternoon, we took a walk in the park near our home. The air was crisp with the scent of pine and earth. Isla skipped ahead, then turned, her face radiant in the soft sunlight. "Claire," she said, "thank you for being my mom." I smiled, tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. "Always, Isla. Always." In the quiet moments, I reflected on everything I had endured. I realized that true strength isn't about loud declarations or revenge. It's found in the quiet resilience of waking up each day, facing the world with dignity, and building a life on your own terms. I learned that betrayal, while devastating, can be the catalyst for transformation, a painful but necessary step toward becoming who you were meant to be. And above all, I discovered that family is what you choose, the people who hold your hand when the world turns against you. There's a particular stillness that comes after a storm. Not the kind that leaves things broken, but the kind that settles like a quiet dawn, soft and full of promise. That was how my life felt in those months after the confrontation. The house, my house once filled with tension and whispered betrayals, now echoed with laughter, warmth, and hope. Nathan and I grew closer, but slowly. I wasn't ready to rush into anything, not after everything I'd been through. He understood. His presence was steady, a reminder that trust could be rebuilt, not erased, but made new. I remember one evening, sitting by the fire with Isla nestled between us, the crackle of flames, a soothing rhythm. Nathan was telling a story from his childhood, the kind that made us all laugh. In that moment, I realized something profound. Life could still be beautiful, even after heartbreak. But healing doesn't mean forgetting. Every day, I carried the lessons etched into my soul. Ethan was gone from my life, forced to reckon with the consequences of his choices in solitude and hard labor. The man who once wore a confident smile now wore calloused hands in a quiet regret. It wasn't my place to relish his fall. Justice had been served, but compassion remained. Sophia's descent was far harsher. Losing custody of Isla broke her in ways I could barely comprehend. She spiraled into poverty and isolation, a stark contrast to the life she once flaunted. Watching her unravel was painful, but I learned that no amount of bitterness or revenge could heal a broken spirit. With every sketch I drew, and every business decision I made, I reclaimed a piece of myself. The publishing company grew beyond anything I had dreamed possible, not just a business, but a beacon for stories of resilience and empowerment. I hired women who had faced their own battles, giving them a platform to share their voices. Together, we built something lasting, a legacy far stronger than the lies that tried to tear me down. One of my proudest moments came when Isla was invited to speak at a local community event about her experiences. Watching her stand confidently, sharing her story with grace and courage, filled me with an indescribable pride. She wasn't just my daughter by choice. She was a symbol of the strength we both carried forward. Sometimes, I catch myself smiling when I think about the journey. From that moment of betrayal, when I stood frozen with a phone in my hand, to this where every day feels like a new beginning. The wounds remain, but they are no longer scars that bind me. They are marks of survival, proof that I can weather any storm. There's a lesson I carry with me now, one I wish I had understood sooner. Strength isn't loud. It doesn't roar or demand attention. It's quiet, steady, and relentless. It's the slow, deliberate building of a life that no one can take away from you, no matter how hard they try. I've learned that resilience is not just about surviving betrayal or heartbreak, it's about choosing yourself every day, even when it's hard. Nathan and I found our rhythm. Not a perfect fairy tale, but a real partnership forged in honesty and respect. He never tried to rush my healing, never pressured me to forget or forgive before I was ready. Instead, he offered steady companionship and unwavering support. One evening, we sat in the backyard, the stars overhead like scattered diamonds on a velvet sky. Isla was asleep inside, and the world felt still. Nathan reached for my hand, his voice low and sure. Whatever comes next, Claire, we face it together. And for the first time in a long while, I believed it. The publishing company became my sanctuary and my voice. I launched a new series focused on stories of women who had faced adversity, stories like mine. I wanted to create a space where strength was celebrated in its quietest forms, where pain transformed into power. Every manuscript that came across my desk reminded me that I wasn't alone, that even in the darkest times, there is light. Isla and I grew closer each day. Her laughter became the soundtrack of my mornings, her small hands reaching for mine, a daily reminder of why I fought so hard. One afternoon, as we walked through a bustling market, she tugged at my sleeve. Claire, do you think people can really change? I looked down at her, the sunlight catching the gold in her hair. Some do, Isla. But sometimes, the most important change happens inside us when we learn to let go and grow. I often think back to those moments when I felt most broken, when Ethan's betrayal felt like the end of everything I knew. But it wasn't the end. It was a beginning of strength I never knew I had, a future I built on my own terms, and a family I chose not because of blood, but because of love. So, if you ever find yourself in a place where trust is broken, and the world feels like it's crumbling around you, remember this: you are not defined by what others do to you. You are defined by how you rise. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply keep going. The truth, once it began to spread, rippled through our small community like a slow-moving tide. Friends and neighbors who had once looked at me with curiosity now regarded me with a mix of sympathy and admiration. I wasn't the woman they thought I was, the quiet, trusting wife, but someone who had quietly taken back control of her life and future. Ethan's fall from grace was undeniable. The family who once praised him cut ties, unwilling to stand by a man whose actions were so brazenly selfish. His new reality was a harsh one: manual labor, a stripped identity, and the cold reality of isolation. Sophia, too, faced her consequences. Losing custody of Isla was the blow that shattered her. I heard through whispers and rumors that she drifted into a lonely existence, her pride and once glittering life reduced to memories and regret. I won't lie, there was a part of me that felt relief in seeing justice served. But it was never about vengeance. It was about reclaiming what was mine and protecting the innocent caught in the crossfire. Isla. The day Isla stood by my side and declared me her mother was not just a personal victory. It was a symbol of the new family we had created. A family built on honesty, love, and trust. The public revelation was handled with dignity, something I was determined to maintain. I wanted this chapter to close not with bitterness, but with a message that no matter how deep the wounds, truth and resilience will prevail. I shared my story through my company's platforms, hoping to reach others who might be suffering in silence. It wasn't easy, laying bare my vulnerabilities for the world to see. But if my journey could inspire even one person to stand strong, it was worth it. Nathan stood by me through every step of the public fallout. His unwavering support was my anchor. Together, we faced questions, judgments, and sometimes, cold stares. But the foundation we built was unshakable. Isla became the light in the darkest moments, her innocence and courage, a reminder of why I fought so fiercely. The weight of betrayal was lifted not by punishment, but by truth. And in that truth, I found freedom. Healing is not a straight path. It's messy, filled with moments where the past sneaks back in, threatening to unravel the progress you've made. But it's also filled with quiet victories. The first night you sleep through without waking to a nightmare. The first time you laugh without guilt. The first morning you wake up and feel peace. For me, healing came in waves. Some days, the weight of what had happened pressed heavily on my chest. Other days, I found myself looking forward to the future, to new possibilities. One afternoon, as Isla and I painted together in the sunlit studio, her tiny hands smearing colors across the canvas, I realized how far we'd come. "Mom," she said, eyes bright, "do you think I can be strong like you?" I smiled, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "You already are, Isla. Stronger than you know." In that moment, I saw not just a daughter, but a survivor. A beacon of hope, someone who would carry our story forward. Nathan and I continued to build our life slowly but surely. We weren't perfect, And there were days when the shadows of the past crept in. But together, we faced them, never letting the darkness win. Our partnership was built on honesty and respect, a foundation I never thought I'd find again. Looking back, I realized that my greatest lesson was this. True strength lies not in loud declarations or dramatic gestures, but in quiet resilience. It's in the choice to keep going when the world tries to break you. It's in the courage to rebuild, to love again, and to open your heart even when it's risky. To anyone listening who feels betrayed, lost, or broken, I see you. Your pain is real, but so is your power. You can rise, you can heal, you can create a life that's stronger and more beautiful than you ever imagined. Thank you for listening to my story. It's not an easy one to share. Betrayal cuts deep, and healing takes time. But if there's one thing I want you to remember, it's this. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. I wonder, have you ever faced a betrayal so deep that it threatened to break you? How did you find the courage to keep going? Would you have made the choices I did? I invite you to share your thoughts and stories in the comments. Sometimes, just knowing we're not alone is the first step to healing. If my story resonated with you, please consider subscribing and supporting this channel, where we share real stories of real people, stories that remind us of the resilience we all carry inside. Remember, no matter how dark the night feels, dawn always comes.